Haunting reunion. Billionaire sees ex-wife with baby who looks just like him at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3, echoing through the silence like an ominous whisper. Jack Middleton, a titan of industry, stood frozen in his massive penthouse, staring out over the city he once ruled. The night seemed alive, shadows stretching unnaturally across the skyline, thickened by the uncertainty gnawing at his gut. A sudden flicker from the alley below caught his eye, and he leaned closer, heart racing. Then he saw her. The woman who once held his heart. His ex-wife, Sophie, stood under the pallid glow of a street lamp. But it wasn't just her presence that sent chills down his spine. In her arms was a baby small, fragile, with unruly dark hair and startling blue eyes that mirrored his own. He stumbled back, breath hitching painfully in his throat. Was that child his? The resemblance was undeniable, every feature, every curve painted a haunting picture. Sophie looked different, too. There was a wildness in her gaze, a desperation that pulled him in like a lighthouse drawing in a lost ship. But why was she here? And at this hour? The streets were empty, cloaked in mystery, the world around them tipping into something surreal. Jack clenched his fists, feeling the weight of unanswered questions crushing him. He hadn't seen her in years. Their separation had been a storm, devastating and misunderstood. She had left, taking everything that once held meaning, vanishing into thin air. Yet here she was again, with this child, in the dead of night. The corners of his mind twisted with confusion, and all he could do was watch through the rain-streaked window. As if sensing his gaze, Sophie turned suddenly, her expression transforming from exhaustion to shock. Jack's heart pounded louder than the city below. Should he call out? Would she recognize him? The tension in the air thickened, a silent promise hanging between them. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a deep breath, Jack decided to take a step closer to the edge of the window, desperate to bridge the chasm that had formed between them. Underneath the fear, there was hope, a flicker that maybe this was a second chance. But as the first droplets of rain began to fall, cascading from the heavens like tears of fate, Sophie turned back to the baby, her eyes clouded by an unnameable sorrow. What was happening? What did it mean that she was here now, and there, enveloped in shadows? Jack knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning of a tale that would rip open old wounds and challenge everything he thought he knew about love and loss. What secrets lay hidden in those familiar eyes? What truths were waiting to be uncovered? As the storm raged outside, so too did the tempest inside his heart. Jack's breath quickened as Sophie moved closer to the street lamp, the glow casting an ethereal light on her features. The baby cooed softly, innocent and unaware of the weight of their shared past. Jack felt as if the ground beneath him had shifted, every pulse in his body echoed the urgency of the moment. Why had she come back? Why now? He was torn between instinct and hesitation, his heart battling between longing and apprehension. Just when he thought he could summon the courage to call out, she abruptly turned away, cradling the baby closer to her chest as if shielding him from the chaos of the world. Jack cursed under his breath. This was no ordinary reunion. Something was very wrong. Through the thick glass, he strained to catch a glimpse of her face. Despair etched deep into her features, her lips parted slightly as though she were whispering to the child. It was a tender scene, yet the tension in the air felt like a noose tightening around his throat. Jack wanted to reach through the glass, pull her into his arms, and promise her that everything would be okay. But was he deluded? Then, a movement in the shadows caught his eye. A figure emerged from the dark, a man, tall and imposing, his features obscured but his intentions clear as he approached Sophie with a predatory air. Instinct kicked in. Jack's heart raced frantically, pumping raw adrenaline through his veins. Get away from her, he shouted, though the words got swallowed by the rain. To his dismay, Sophie didn't look up. She remained focused on the baby, her expression shifting from fear to resignation. Jack slammed his fist against the window, panic heightening with every second wasted. Did she not hear him? Did she not know who was coming for her? As the stranger stepped closer, Jack's frustration morphed into dread. He could see the man speak, his voice low and menacing, but Jack was too far away to hear the words. Sophie's eyes darted between the man and the baby, a flicker of recognition sparking in them that cut Jack to the core. Did this man mean harm to them? Was the child safer in his arms than in hers? Playing the moment over in his head, Jack grabbed his coat and bolted for the door, each stride echoing his determination. He would not let the past dictate his future. This time, he would fight for what was right. He burst into the rain-soaked night, each droplet drenching him in both terror and resolve. As he raced down the stairs, his mind raced faster. What had she done? Why was this man here? The questions lashed at him like the rain against his face, each answer further muddled in the shadows of uncertainty. Finally, he pushed open the door to the street, the cool air slapping against his skin. He scanned the alley, his eyes desperately trying to focus through the downpour. But just as he reached the edge, Jack froze. They were gone. Sophie and the baby had vanished, leaving only the sinister shadow of the man lurking in the distance. No! Jack yelled, the sound tearing from his throat, laden with regret. He took a step forward, but the darkness swallowed them whole, leaving behind a haunting silence. The rain fell heavier, masking his heartbeat. What was she hiding? What had he plunged into? Those questions twisted through his mind like a knife. Jack's thoughts spun as he scanned the grim alley again. Somewhere between the past and present lurked danger, but while he was searching for answers, he realized something even more terrifying. Sophie had re-entered his life for a reason. And whatever that reason was might rip them apart all over again. With determination rising inside him, Jack pulled out his phone, heart racing against the cacophony around him. It was time for answers. He would find Sophie, no matter the cost, but then the alert sounded, a text message from an unknown number. His throat tightened as he opened it. Just 3 words stood stark against the darkness: I have them. What was he willing to sacrifice to save them? Jack's hands trembled as he stared at the screen, those chilling words stabbing deep into his gut. I have them. His pulse quickened, each beat thrumming like a war drum in the silence. A fire ignited in his chest. He wouldn't let fear dictate his next move. Not again. He looked around, the rain-soaked street eerily still, the shadows now bearing down on him, transforming from faceless nightmares into something utterly tangible. That man had something to do with Sophie's return, he was sure of it. What force had drawn her back into his life only to plunge them into chaos? Jack couldn't waste another second. He gritted his teeth and shot off a reply, demanding a location, a hint, anything. But as he pressed send, a sense of dread washed over him. What if this was a trap? His heart raced as he paced the sidewalk, glancing at the phone again. Nothing. Just the steady beat of rain splashing against the asphalt and the distant sound of thunder rumbling ominously. The wait felt eternal. Then it buzzed. The screen flickered a new text. Jack's hands reached out reflexively, grasping the phone like a lifeline. The message was brief: meet me at the old docks. Midnight. Midnight. The weight of the world crashed over him. The docks? That was the last place he wanted to go, a dark pit of memories that haunted him. 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind. Should he go? He could be walking straight into a trap. But then again, Sophie had vanished. Was she in trouble? Jack's instinct screamed at him, battle-ready for whatever awaited. He couldn't turn his back on her now. He slipped his phone into his pocket, steeling himself. With each stride, the urgency clawed at him, a primal instinct to protect, to shield. He couldn't afford hesitation, not this time. The streets morphed into blurry streaks as he sprinted towards the docks. As he ran, images of Sophie filled his mind, flickering memories both sweet and bitter. The tenderness of her smile, the warmth of her laughter, all now entwined with an air of mystery and dread. Why had she come back into his life like this? The stakes were higher than ever before, and every second felt stolen. Reaching the docks, Jack slowed. The tired wooden planks creaked under his weight, a sharp reminder of his traumas. Dark water lapped at the edges, whispering tales of despair and secrets. He scanned the area, peering into the shadows where the light couldn't reach. "Show yourself," he called out, trembling with fear yet firmly anchored in determination. Silence answered him. But he could feel eyes watching, waiting. He stepped deeper into the darkness, heart hammering against his ribcage. Each step echoed, a reminder that he was not alone. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. Jack's breath hitched. The silhouette was familiar but cloaked in darkness. Sophie? The figure stepped closer. It was her, but the brightness in her eyes was dimmed with anguish. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered urgently, panic lacing her tone. "Who's after you?" Jack demanded, rage and fear colliding within him. He stepped forward, desperate to pull her into his arms, to shield her from whatever horror had brought them here, but just then, the sound of footsteps echoing from the other side of the boardwalk sent a chill down his spine. They weren't alone. As the figure approached, a dark shadow loomed behind Sophie, his intentions clear. Jack's heart dropped, dread suffusing the air between them. "Run!" he shouted, but before she could move, the shadow advanced, and the world around them blurred into chaos. What had they unleashed? And would he be able to save them before it was all too late? Jack's instincts kicked in, adrenaline surging through his veins as he lunged towards Sophie, but the looming figure unfurled a menacing smirk, tauntingly blocking their path. The air thickened, charged with an unspeakable tension. Every fiber in Jack's being urged him to protect her, to shield her from whatever darkness had brought them face to face with this malevolent presence. "Stay behind me," he ordered, forcing out a calm he didn't feel. Jack could hear the blood rushing in his ears, drowning out the world around him. The shadow wasn't just any man. He was a brute, muscled and cold, with eyes that gleamed like broken glass in the faint light. "You really shouldn't have come, Jack," the man growled, each word laced with menace. "Did you think this would end well? Who the hell are you?" Jack gritted his teeth, fingers curling into fists as he moved to place himself between Sophie and the oncoming threat. Protection hovered over him like a violent storm waiting to break loose. Sophie tugged at Jack's sleeve, her eyes filled with panic. "Jack, we have to go. He's dangerous." But her warning was drowned by the echoing footsteps of more figures emerging from the darkness. They came in a silent, coordinated rush, shadows blending seamlessly into the night that a wave of dread washed over Jack. For every figure that appeared, the strength of his resolve wavered. "What do you want with us?" he challenged, his voice wavering as he faced the growing horde. The initial figure stepped forward, leaning in closer. "It's simple, really. You have something that belongs to us." The vile grin widened, revealing a set of teeth that seemed almost too sharp. "And now, it's time for you to pay the price for taking what isn't yours." Realization crashed down on Jack. "Sophie," he breathed, turning to her. "What the hell does he mean?" Her face twisted into a mask of fear. "I didn't know, Jack. I swear." She pleaded, but the words slipped like water through his fingers, unable to quell the rising tide of fear enveloping him. At that moment, the men surged forward. Jack pushed Sophie behind him, adrenaline spiking as he prepared to fight. The dock creaked ominously under their weight, mirroring his turbulent heart. He had faced dangers before, but this felt different, rawer, more personal. The first attacker lunged, and Jack reacted instinctively, ducking low and swinging a hard kick at the man's knee. The impact jolted Jack, pain radiating up his leg, but his focus remained sharp. The figure crumpled, but there were more. Sophie screamed as they pressed in, retreating further into the shadows. "We have to run," she yelled, but as Jack turned to grab her wrist and pull her away, either his grip faltered or she slipped. He couldn't tell. What happened next felt like a blur. The air filled with shouts, punches, and the sickening sound of bodies colliding. Time stretched as Jack fought back, every punch serving as a desperate plea for survival. Then, everything froze. Noise swallowed by an unsettling silence as the figures paused, their leaders stepping back, a twisted smile forming. You really think you can fight us? You're playing a losing game. He motioned behind Jack, and when Jack noticed someone was emerging from the further shadows, cloaked in darkness, a presence that felt unnervingly familiar. The newcomer stepped into the dim light, and Jack's breath caught in his throat. He couldn't believe his eyes. What did you do? The words barely escaped his lips as reality warped around him. Sophie gasped, and the world spun on its axis, plunging Jack into an abyss of confusion and dread. With the truth rapidly unraveling, would he discover the real reason behind Sophie's return before it all spiraled out of control? As he faced this new threat, everything he knew unwrapped like tattered paper, revealing deeper, sinister secrets lurking just beneath the surface. Jack's heart raced as recognition blazed through him. There, stepping gingerly into the weak light, was someone he had thought he'd never see again. The woman he had loved, the one who vanished without a trace, now stood confronting him, a spectral figure from a life long buried in pain. Emma. The name slipped from his lips, barely a whisper yet sharp as a knife. Sophie breathed in sharply. Jack, is that? What is happening? Emma's eyes were wide but shining with an emotion that cracked right through the jagged surface of Jack's confusion. I didn't want to get you involved, she shouted, desperation etched into her features. I thought it was safer. I had to protect you. Protect me? By disappearing? By dragging us out here into this hell? Jack felt his fists clench. What the hell is going on? And who are these people? The menacing brute chuckled darkly, his voice dripping with disdain. Oh, this is going to be fun. The past has a way of haunting us all, he said, casting an oblique glance toward Emma. And here she is, just in time to watch you both fall apart. Jack shot a furious glare at the thug. You'll regret those words. Sophie tugged at his arm, her voice sharp with concern. Jack, focus. We need to get out of here. This isn't just about you anymore. But Jack couldn't just turn his back on Emma. The storm of memories lashed at him savagely, the late nights, the laughter, and the heart-wrenching pain when she left. Instinct wrestled with loyalty, leaving him paralyzed. Tell me what is going on. Why are they here? He demanded, his voice straining with emotion. Emma's expression shifted into something darker, weighed down by secrets that felt too heavy to bear. I made a mistake. I thought I could keep you both safe from them, but they found me, Jack. They always do. What does that mean? Jack's chest tightened. Before she could answer, the shadows shifted. The group of attackers advanced, hunger for chaos glinting in their eyes. Time's up, the leader snarled, gesturing sharply. Get him. Everything erupted. Jack's instincts kicked in once more. He moved as if in a trance, electric energy surging through him, pushing him forward with blurring speed. He tackled the nearest foe, their bodies crashing against the wooden dock. The air erupted with shouts, fists, and the sickening thud of skin striking bone. Jack's world condensed to a blur. He fought, but Sophie was behind him, and Emma loomed near, a ghost tethering him to his past. Get back. He yelled to Emma, but she seemed caught in her own tempest, staring at the chaos unfolding with a haunting familiarity. Somewhere in the fray, a sudden shout pierced the melee. You don't even know what you're fighting for. Jack's pulse quickened. What do you mean? He shouted back, trying to catch a glimpse of the leader amid the tussle. Your past is coming back to claim you. This isn't just about Sophie. The man declared, a sinister smile breaking across his face. You're standing at the edge of a deeper darkness. You'll see it soon enough. A rush of fear threaded through Jack's mind. Was there truth to the menace veiled in his words? Jack! Sophie cried, slipping from the fight's perimeter and toward Emma, casting frantic glances behind. They're closing in. We need to go, now. But as Jack turned, worry flaring like wildfire, he caught Emma's gaze locked on the shadows spreading around them. Fear braided with recognition, and Jack felt time slip beneath his fingers. The realization settled like cold iron in his gut. There was more to this than he had ever imagined. With each frenzied moment, the stakes climbed higher. What past was Emma trying to shield? And more importantly, could they escape this hell before the greater darkness swallowed them whole? He lunged towards Sophie and Emma, knowing that their survival hinged not only on fighting back but unraveling the tangled web of their shared history that had ensnared them all, and that revelation might just be the key to cutting themselves free. The night was closing in, and every shadow whispered secrets they were yet to uncover. Jack's body moved on instinct, ducking and weaving through chaos as he fought desperately to stay alive. The thugs surged forward, their cruel laughter echoing against the dock. He could feel Sophie's anxiety radiating behind him, while Emma's haunting presence gave him an odd mix of strength and anguish. A fist swung toward him, a flash of darkness, and Jack sidestepped just in time, knocking the attacker off balance. "We can't stay here," Jack shouted, hoping to snap Emma out of her trance. Her eyes, usually filled with warmth, were cold and distant as if she were grappling with ghosts he couldn't see. Sophie yanked at his arm. "We need to go. Now." She was right, but where? Every direction seemed cloaked in violence, shadows thickening around them like a suffocating fog. Emma took a step toward them, her voice trembling. "I can't run, Jack." Her words cut through the noise, halting him in his tracks. "They'll come for me. You don't understand, I can't let them find you." His heart thudded painfully in his chest. "What are you talking about? You're in danger too." But still, Emma's gaze was frantic, seemingly peering into a future he couldn't grasp. The demented leader of the thugs lunged at Jack, but he sidestepped, pushing Emma further behind him. "Stay back." The world shrunk down to this moment. Everything felt explosive, the air charged. Jack's mind raced. A sudden flash of movement caught his eye. One of the thugs picked up a heavy iron pipe, charging forward. "Jack, watch out!" Sophie shouted as she lunged towards him, instinctively trying to shield him. The clang of metal meeting flesh echoed painfully as she intercepted the swing aimed at Jack's head. The force threw her backward, slamming her against the wooden beams. "No!" Jack's scream pierced through the night. As Sophie crashed down, Jack felt a surge of rage surge through him, raw and consuming. He whipped around, fists clenched, zeroing in on the brute with a singular focus. "You'll pay for that." Jack surged forward, adrenaline taking command as he engaged the man, fists flying. In the chaos, Emma's voice broke through. "Jack! You need to listen to me." The urgency in her tone halted him. He barely managed to land another punch before turning to her, desperation mingling with anger. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to know the truth." Tears streamed down her face, and for the first time, Jack saw the depth of her fear. The leader of the thugs laughed from his position, gradually getting back to his feet, mocking their struggles. "Enough of this. You don't need to know. All you need to do is stay out of the way." He spat, but Jack couldn't ignore the power of Emma's gaze, the urgency clawing at his chest. "What truth?" Jack demanded, feeling the thugs around them reassess as they halted their attacks, intrigued by this unexpected standoff. "The truth about why I left, what they want from us." Emma's voice cracked under the pressure. Before she could reveal more, the floor beneath them buckled, splintering as another thug appeared, wielding a crowbar, jerking Jack's attention away. The moment stretched. Something deep within Jack snapped. He wouldn't allow anyone else to get hurt. He lunged with renewed ferocity, but Emma's words rang in his mind, a palpable threat woven with the shadows. It was more than just survival, it was a confrontation with the past that could change everything. In that instant, Jack understood. The fight had escalated, but the real battle lay not only in this hellish encounter but in the heart of the darkness threatening to envelop everything they once knew. The last thug fell as he slipped on splintered wood, but as Jack turned back to Emma, his heart stopped. Her expression shifted: fear, determination, but also deep sorrow. What did she know? As the remaining thug fled, chaos waned, replaced by haunting silence. Jack's chest rose and fell rapidly, and Emma stepped closer. "You need to listen, Jack. There's so much more at stake than you know." Confusion spun in Jack's mind like a whirlpool. He was back to where it all began, questioning every choice he had made. Every whisper in the dark. And before she could speak again, shadows loomed on the horizon, more approaching figures. "Run!" Jack yelled, but as the urgency swelled, a chilling realization gripped him. Would they ever truly escape their pasts? And what truth would Emma reveal before it was too late? Jack bolted, grabbing Emma's wrist, pulling her along as they dashed past the debris littering the dock. Adrenaline flooded his system, but the weight of Emma's words lingered. "What is it you need to tell me?" he shouted over his shoulder, urgency booming in his voice. She barely kept pace, breathless, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. "It's not just about us, Jack. It's about our past." That word echoed painfully in his mind. Past. The one they thought they could leave behind. He risked a glance back, where shadows morphed into figures, more thugs, their silhouettes menacing against the moonlight. "Keep running," Sophie gasped, struggling to catch her breath. They sprinted toward the nearest warehouse, the heavy door slightly ajar. Moments later, they slipped inside, heartbeats pounding in sync with the unsettling quiet. The interior was dim, flickering lights barely illuminating stacks of wooden pallets and rusted machinery. "Emma, what do you mean they want us?" Jack lowered his voice, trying to keep his panic in check. "Who are these people?" "Those men, they're from my past too. They think I know something." "I don't even." Emma's voice faltered, the gravity of her situation crashing down on her like a tidal wave. Jack gripped her shoulders, forcing her to meet his gaze. "What do they want?" "We have to clear this up before we get hurt again." Before she could respond, the door creaked open. Jack's heart raced as he crouched low, watching a group of 4 thugs glide into the room, all too familiar with the surroundings. "If we can take them by surprise," Sophie whispered, clutching a rusty wrench she'd picked up along the way. Jack nodded slowly, formulating a plan. They needed to use their environment, but before he could urge them into action, the leader approached, glancing around greedily. "You think escaping me is so easy, huh? I will get what I need, even if I have to beat it out of you." Jack tightened his fists, ready to charge, but Emma's voice stopped him once more. "No. You can't. Not like this. If you fight them, you're signing your own death warrant." Panic danced behind Jack's eyes as he scanned the room, thoughts racing. "And you think we're safer here?" "I am trying to protect you." The contradiction in Emma's statement hung between them, leaving Jack grappling with doubt. "What are you hiding?" he demanded, feeling the ground shift beneath him, the air thickening with unspoken truths. "Everything." Emma's eyes sparkled with unshed tears. "I thought I could spare you. I always thought I could protect you, but I was wrong." Suddenly, the peeling paint above them creaked ominously as the warehouse began to shudder. Jack realized the structure was unstable, and his instincts kicked in again. "We can't stay here, we need to move, now." He grabbed both Emma and Sophie, urging them backward into the shadows, away from the approaching thugs, but just as they turned to escape, a blast shook the ground, followed by a muffled explosion outside. The force of it sent Jack sprawling to the floor, dark clouds of dust billowing around him. "Get up." Sophie's voice came like a lifeline, but as he struggled to his feet, a sinister laugh echoed from the shadows. Well, looks like the party is just getting started," the thug leader sneered, a glint of a weapon visible in his hands. Jack's heart raced. Chaos was closing in again. In that moment of uncertainty, his chest tightened, and he felt every ounce of the truth Emma was dancing around. Would he discover that truth before it was too late? Or would the revelation doom them all? As the leader advanced, Jack braced himself for a confrontation, but deep inside, the gnawing question remained: what could Emma possibly know that would redefine their fight for survival? The leader's laugh hung in the air, thick with menace, startling Jack from his spiraling thoughts. Dust swirled around them like a murky fog, and the flickering lights cast eerie shadows, fueling his instinct to fight. But Emma, her pale face, pleading gaze held him back, producing an internal tremor, a conflict that carved deeper into his resolve. "Jack, we need to think," Emma said, her voice a breathless whisper, shattering the silence he'd wrapped around himself. "They're not just going to let us leave. They'll follow us." Sophie clenched the wrench tighter. The metal felt slick against her palm. Then we make it harder for them. There's gotta be something in here we can use. Jack nodded, scanning the surroundings. A set of old gas canisters caught his eye, and an idea sparked in his mind. Yes. If we can get them to the entrance, are you crazy? That's too dangerous. Emma's eyes widened, the fear in them ripping through him. Less talk, more action, shouted Sophie. We don't have time to waste. Jack dashed to the canisters, quickly dragging too close to the heavy warehouse door. Desperation fed his speed. They were outnumbered, the threat was palpable. He could feel it, the danger slicing through the moment, urging him to hurry before they lose their chance at escaping. With a swift motion, he pried a rusty hook off a nearby pallet, determined to create a blockade from within. He leaned close to Emma, unwilling to look away from her quivering lips. I know you're scared, but if we do this right, they won't be able to chase us. Emma's expression twisted between fear and trust. Just promise me you won't get hurt, Jack. You can't. His heart shattered a little under that weight. I can't promise that anymore. Not when you're in danger. But the moment fractured with renewed chaos. The thug leader sensed their plan and barked an order, his thugs lunging toward them with malice in their eyes. Now! Jack shouted, driving the hook into the door frame, locking it into place just as one thug slammed into it, rattling the door violently. Keep moving. Sophie urged, her voice cutting through the tumult. They hurried toward the gas canisters. Don't shoot. Emma cried, panic bursting from her chest. Just let us go. You don't want this fight. Jack's heart sank at those words. There was no hope for negotiation. He hurled a canister toward the entrance, splintering it upon impact. The tremor rattled through them as fumes exploded in a violent hiss, creating a dense barrier. Jack's chest tightened with every second that passed. They needed to act fast. The thugs cursed, scrambling back, but the leader just laughed, unfazed by the chaos unraveling around him. You think a little gas is going to stop me? You don't know what you're dealing with. Adrenaline fueled every step as they backed away further into the maze of rusty machinery, hearts pounding in sync with the chaos outside. Jack! The back exit. Sophie shouted, pointing to a narrow opening barely visible behind a pile of disheveled crates. Without hesitation, they maneuvered through the clutter, but a vicious grip clamped down on Jack's shoulder, yanking him back. Where do you think you're going? The thug sneered, his breath rancid and close. Fear gripped Jack, but as he turned, he saw the wild determination in Emma's eyes, and it ignited a fire inside him. He acted on instinct, spinning and elbowing the thug in the gut. The man let out a wheeze but kept a hold on Jack's jacket, pulling them both off balance. Get free. Now. Jack gasped, but they were running out of time. With a frantic twist, he broke free just as another thug charged at him. They collided, hitting the ground hard, breaths escaping in pained gasps. Jack! Emma's voice pierced through the confusion, pushing him onward. Leave him. We need to go. The explosion behind them created an eerie glow, casting twisted shadows across the room. Jack pushed himself up, heart racing. He could still fight, but the weight of Emma's secrets hung heavily on his conscience. As they burst through the narrow exit, the world outside felt surreal, fresh. Air filling their lungs. But the thrill of escape shattered the moment with the sounds of approaching sirens echoing in the distance. Heart pounding, Jack turned to Emma just as she opened her mouth to speak, words trembling on her lips like a fragile thread. But before she could explain, the blare of sirens grew louder, and uncertainty loomed over them like an approaching storm. What lay ahead was unknown, yet Jack knew deep down that the night was far from over. With the weight of her secrets and the reality of their chase colliding, he couldn't shake the question looming in his mind: would they survive what was to come, or would Emma's past swallow them whole? Heavy footsteps thundered behind them as Jack, Emma, and Sophie stumbled into the night. The wail of sirens grew nearer, and the chill in the air seemed to gnaw at Jack's skin. Their heartbeats syncopated with the blaring horns, a soundtrack of panic pushing them forward. Where do we go? Emma's voice trembled, her fear creeping back into the silence that followed them. The city seemed to loom larger, brighter, but the shadows chased them relentlessly. Quick! Jack pointed toward a narrow alley lined with rusted dumpsters. We can hide there. They sprinted, skidding to a stop just as they entered the gloomy alleyway. Emma leaned against the wall, her breaths rapid and shallow, their intensity matching the pounding of the sirens. Sophie glanced back toward the entrance, her grip still tight on the wrench. What if they come this way? She panted. Jack raised a finger to his lips, signaling silence. They ducked down, shadows enveloping them. Every noise outside resonated like a beat of a drum, drowning out the frantic whispers between them. What was that back there? Jack asked, his voice low. What did they want? Emma shook her head, fear in her eyes. I don't know. I didn't think they'd come after me after us. Think, Emma. You must know something that could help us figure this out. Jack pressed, anxiety bubbling like hot lava under his skin. She bit her lip, her mind racing, but the facade of strength shattered. I didn't tell you everything. I now's not the time. Sophie interrupted, glancing up the alley. If we stay here, we'll never know what they'll do next. A sinking feeling plagued Jack. Time was slipping away, and without a plan, they were as good as dead. We can't stay here. Let us circle around the block and head back to the car. It should still be parked where we left it. Emma winced at the thought. But if they see us, I can't risk putting you both in danger. He took a step closer, his face inches from hers. Your past is haunting us right now. But we can't let fear govern our choices. If those thugs have ties to you, we need to figure that out. The weight of his words hung in the air thick as the fog swirling around them. Just as Emma opened her mouth to respond, the commotion outside escalated with guttural yells, followed by a series of blinding flashes illuminating the alley. Jack stiffened, his heart hammering in his chest. They're here, he whispered, dread pooling in the pit of his stomach. Let's go. Sophie barked again. As they turned to dart deeper into the alley, the unmistakable sound of boots echoed closer. It was too late to hide. Jack's instinct screamed fight or flight. They couldn't go back, so they pushed on, knees pumping harder. The alley opened up ahead, leading to the back of a bar. Jack peered through the doorway, and a rush of relief washed over him. The street beyond was empty. This way. He motioned, urgency igniting his veins. As they emerged into the open, a flicker of movement caught his eye. A figure stepped into view from across the street, silhouetted against the harsh light of a nearby lamp. His heart sank as recognition struck. Jack. Emma whispered, her face blanched. Someone's watching us. The silhouette stepped closer, and an uneasy thrill crackled through the air. Jack squinted, adrenaline blasting through him. The figure was a man, tall and imposing, with an air that radiated danger. Who is he? Sophie asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, Jack replied, the doubt creeping back in. But before he could think, the man called out, a smooth voice slicing through the tension. You three really thought you could escape that easily? How quaint. Every nerve in Jack's body ignited, a mix of anger and fear boiling into one. Run! He screamed, adrenaline pushing them forward once again, the chase relentless, their secrets weaving into a tangled web. As they sprinted away, Jack's mind spiraled. That voice was familiar, chilling him to the bone. Who was it, and what else from Emma's past awaited them? The uncertainty gnawed at him, but one thing was clear, they were far from safe. What awaited them in the shadows was yet to be revealed. Jack's heart thundered in his chest as they raced through the dimly lit streets, the echoes of their footsteps swallowed by the city's restless pulse. Emma kept pace beside him, but the uncertainty cloaking her like a shroud gnawed at his resolve. And behind them, the shadows were closing in. Who was that man? Jack gasped, desperation edging into his voice as they turned a corner, looking for refuge. I don't know, Emma breathed, her eyes wide with panic. But I have a feeling he's part of what I was trying to protect you from. Sophie shot a worried glance over her shoulder, her grip tightening on the wrench as they hurried deeper into an alley's cape stained in flickering neon lights. It can't just be coincidence. If they know about Emma, Jack, we need to know what's happening. This isn't just random. I know. Jack spat, frustration bubbling under the surface. They rounded another corner, finding themselves in a small plaza with an ancient fountain at its center. The water splashed melodically, yet it felt sinister under the weight of their fear. Let us rest here, Jack suggested, urgency overtaken by a need to regain composure. They slipped behind the fountain, falling into a crouch, trying to catch their breath while the adrenaline buzzed through their veins. Emma, Jack said, his voice steadier than he felt, you need to tell us everything. What do they want with you? What is your past? Emma hesitated, glancing from Jack to Sophie. Guilt shimmered in her tear-filled eyes. I'll tell you everything, she whispered, determination tightening her features, but first I need you both to promise me you'll stay by my side no matter what. The shadows in the corners of Jack's mind shifted, whispering warnings. I promise, he said, nodding. Sophie echoed his sentiment, though her grip remained firm on the wrench, readying for the unexpected. Emma took a deep breath, the glow of the fountain illuminating her face in stark detail, vulnerability bared. There's a reason I left, Jack. And it wasn't just to spare you pain. I was in deeper than you could imagine. Those men, they were part of a dark circle connected back to my family. They think I hold something they want. Something I don't even know exists. What? What do they want? Jack pressed, and the night seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. The truth. Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. They believe I know the location of a family heirloom. But after my mother passed, I didn't think it mattered. I always thought I could start over, leave my past behind. But by disappearing, I brought you both into this. Into what? Danger? Into everything, she confirmed, tears spilling as she faced the shivering reality of her choices. The air felt electric, thick with emotions and revelations as their surroundings remained eerily quiet. Suddenly, a distant shout pierced the stillness, a reminder that time was slipping away from them. The thugs were still after them, relentless shadows lurking in the alleyways. Emma, we need a plan, Jack said, determination hardening his resolve. If they want something from you, we can use it to our advantage. We need to find out what they know, Sophie added, her voice steady. There has to be a connection we can exploit. They shared a moment of silent understanding, their fates intertwined in the chaos. One thing was clear, they weren't going to let the past consume them again. All right, Emma nodded, finding strength in their unity. There's an old warehouse I used to go to when I needed to escape. It could hold information about what they're after. Lead the way, Jack said, scrambling to his feet, adrenaline surging back to life as they dashed toward the unknown. With each hurried step, he felt shadows chasing behind, but the hope fluttered in his chest, igniting a flame that burned brighter with every passing moment. Sprinting through the dimly lit streets, they finally reached the warehouse. Drenched in the moonlight, it loomed before them, heavy with memories of lost secrets. Jack glanced at the door, feeling the weight of their shared past pressing against him. This is it, he murmured. Let us find out what's been haunting you. Emma nodded, a mix of fear and determination reflecting in her gaze. They ducked inside, the air thick with the scent of rust and neglect. Jack felt the adrenaline buzz in the silence, the anticipation cutting sharper than any blade, as they began to search for the truth that could set them free. As they moved deeper into the bowels of the building, it became clear, this wasn't just about surviving the night. It was about confronting the ghosts of their lives, the shadows that had brought them all together. With every creaking floorboard, they could feel the weight of the secrets surrounding them. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the answers lurking in the darkness might change everything again. A sudden noise caught their attention, a muffled whisper from behind a stack of crates. Raising his hand, Jack gestured for silence, adrenaline thrumming through him once more. They moved cautiously, hearts racing as they got closer. The whisper grew louder, piercing the thick tension that overshadowed them. I know where it is, a deep voice echoed from the shadows. But you'll have to pay the price for it. Jack signaled for Emma and Sophie to stay back, bracing himself against the wall, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The past was no longer something they could escape, it was something they needed to face head-on. Together, Jack took a deep breath, prepared to defend them, and stepped into the light, unveiling the truth and the unseen dangers that lay beneath the surface. "We're here to end this," he declared, unveiling his courage as determination surged through him. And as the shadows began to part, the real confrontation was just about to begin. Now, it is your turn to join the journey. You need to subscribe now so you won't miss out on what happens next. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and help others find this thrilling saga. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about the twists and turns we just witnessed. And don't wait even one more second to share this chapter with at least 5 friends who need to experience this heart-pounding conclusion.